Welcome to One Brothas Mind, and I am KD Smooth. Today we will question and challenge popular information and views from a B1 perspective, while we expose the real facts you need. We do this to strengthen your logical, critical, and discerning thinking skills. Because in today's world, hard choices are mandatory and they come with consequences. So you need all the information. And at One Brothas Mind, we do this from a B1 Yeshua the Christ followers perspective. Now, if you're not ready, you better get ready with KD Smooth at One Brothas Mind. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's KD Smooth back at you again with a new report this evening. This evening, family, we're going to chop it up on the information that's coming out about this topic. Yeah, the teacher shortage. Family, there's some things that y'all need to know and understand. Getting prepared for or prepared to go into the upcoming school year. Yeah, there's some really tough decisions that family, everyone needs to make. Okay? But before we get into this topic this evening, family, please remember to smash the like button. Doesn't cost you nothing. Share this video on all of your social media, as well as make sure that you are subscribed to the One Brothas Mind YouTube channel here, because we attempt to bring you the information and facts you need. All right, help us grow this channel, family. Okay, so yeah, let's chop it up on this issue here, the teacher shortage, and this is the current teacher shortage and the effects on our kids' education, what things you need to know and should be considering. As a part of this report, family, I'm going to share with you a video interview where some education administrators and actually an ex-teacher, they're all going to share some views in regards to, a lot that's going on right now that I thought was really helpful. I'm going to share that with you. It's probably going to be about, 5 to 10 minute video. And then after that video, we're going to dig in even deeper to try to flesh out, all of the information that we need to know to help you and help us make the best decisions for our kids going forward. Okay, family? All right, so let's get started here with this video. And after this video, family, we're going to come back and we're going to chop it up and go from there, okay? All right, so in just a moment here, we're going to start our video and go from there. Here we go.
As of what we just heard, tremendous amount of pressure on superintendents, on principals. The ed workforce is in peril right now. We're seeing a shortage across the board. A lot of districts are closing now, not because of the pandemic, but simply because they don't have enough staff to open. It's a critical problem. And the worst part is that we already had a teacher shortage before this began. And now we don't have a pipeline that would bring teachers to replace the ones that are leaving. So it's a critical situation that we're facing right now. And we don't see a solution anytime in the future.
And let's dig into some of these numbers too, Dan, if you don't mind. I'll just throw it at you, and I want to get your thoughts. The National Education Association poll just taken last month 55% of the educators here in the United States intend to quit teaching sooner than they had initially planned. And you look at Lindsay, and she's a young teacher, so vibrant. Your daughter, undoubtedly the same case. It's got to be a major cause of concern.
It is a major cause of concern. And, we're looking at what do we have to do immediately to try to solve it? Definitely higher pay. There's no question, but that a lot of teachers are being taken out of the profession by the private sector because they're educated individuals, they're articulate individuals, and they're being offered more money in a job that doesn't have the pressures that teaching has. So they're leaving the profession. Then there are those individuals that are basically getting sick and decide that that's not something they want to continue to do. And then, of course, the stress of the job. Really, what we're seeing, anybody that's been watching board meetings on television recently, see how caustic these meetings have become. And teachers are being abused. They're being attacked as our superintendents and other educators. So it's a major issue that has to be solved quickly. We need to provide higher pay, better working conditions for teachers. And by the way, there really isn't a teacher shortage. There are a lot of teachers out there. There's a shortage of teachers willing to work in the classroom. And we have to begin to attract those people back into the profession.
Very good point. Peter, these issues are not new, but I think Dan just touched on something that is relatively new, what we're seeing at these board hearings and just kind of these attacks on teachers, educators. I just was reading in the Washington Post today, there's a piece about moms in suburban neighborhoods who have gone on a Zoom conference to kind of learn how to go to school board meetings and have tactics, because they've got to combat these vitriolic parents who are screaming, we want the mask on, we want the vaccine mandates gone, that sort of thing. School board meetings are becoming basically battlegrounds. How do we get to this point?
One of the sad facts about politics today is that anytime somebody sees an opportunity, they seize it. And some people are now realizing there's an opportunity in school board meetings for political gain. And I think it's one of the reasons that it's become harder and harder to be a teacher, harder to be an educator, and frankly, scary for people. They face all kinds of pressures on social media. They face all kinds of challenges in their lives. Some of them are confronted in their communities. And that's the kind of thing that just makes people go, this is not worth it. And I think that, we need to really confront that as much as possible. We need to make it safe for teachers to do their job. I mean, what's going on with this critical race theory debate is in many ways such a deep sign of disrespect for teachers, to not respect them and know that they can handle these challenging issues sensitively and thoughtfully. And the fact that maybe in one or two cases or rare exceptions you hear people who mishandle it isn't a cause for states to start to pass legislation. We have good remedies for situations where tough issues like critical race theory get mishandled, and we should stick to those remedies. We have school board meetings, we have principals, we have parents, we have opportunities for parents, teachers to sit down together and talk about these issues, and that's where they should be dealt with instead of in state legislatures. So education has just become more and more of a political football, and I think it's a real bad trend.
Yeah, Jennifer, the NEA survey that I was talking about reported that 90% of those surveyed say burnout is a serious problem. Some states are relying on parents and retirees to come in because they've got this growing shortage. It's also become an issue because of COVID. Of course, Omicron just racing through the ranks. Even some parents pressed into action as substitutes. We're going to listen to one right now, and I want to get your reaction on the other side.
We have a lot of teachers and administrators out because of COVID, either because they have tested positive or they have children themselves or someone in their family has COVID. And so just to keep kids in school rather than shutting down a whole classroom or shutting down the school, they've asked parents to come in and fill in.
So you have these teachers, some of them parents as well. They go to school, they don't know if they're going to get the virus, bring it home, give it to their kids, give it to their spouses. And then there's another piece which we really haven't spent a lot of time on. Dan mentioned it, of course, teachers' salaries. They aren't where they should be. In fact, they were going down before the pandemic. Bloomberg was out with a report that says the pay is better at McDonald's than being a substitute teacher. I mean, these are a lot of incentives not to get into this industry. Some big problems there, right?
Absolutely. So, Mike, I teach teachers and I teach research methods for people who want to transition from teaching to education policy. And This is not new. I was one of those teachers like Lindsay who transitioned out of the profession and into research. But so this is not new that I have students coming to me saying, this field does not respect me as an adult and does not respect me as a professional, but it is exacerbated for all of these reasons, particularly the stresses of COVID. And it is, so the story that you just heard from the parent about parents serving as substitutes, we do need partnership instead of animosity. And what I hear from my students who are teaching is a lot of them, they're teaching in city schools that are really tough, and they are working in partnership with parents, but the parents are stretched really thin, the kids are stretched thin and very stressed out, as are the teachers, because kids are now coming back to school from the times of, schools having been closed and then schools having been temporarily closed because of these staffing shortages. So kids are coming back with all different levels of preparation and different levels of socialization than teachers have had to deal with before. So the variability that they're facing is different, is higher, and they have to adapt quickly on top of being stressed about their health and being worried that the school system is not necessarily taking all the health precautions to protect them. And so the system is just stretched to the breaking point, as you just heard.
Lindsay, in your farewell letter, it really comes through how much you love the profession, and we've seen that as well as you talk about it. My grandfather was a superintendent of schools, my mom was a teacher, my wife was a teacher, my sister was a teacher, and none of them made millions. They went into it because of their love of the profession, like yourself. So talk to me about what it would take to lure you back into the classroom, because I feel like the students are going to miss out having you outside. I know you're still advocating, but what's it going to take to get somebody like you and others who are walking away from this profession to come back?
Well, that's a really easy answer. The foundation of everything that we do in our classrooms is relationships. And what I've been the most devastated by in the last 2 years is to see the breakdown of family and community engagement and the relationship between teachers and families. And that's all being driven by polarizing rhetoric and, negative rhetoric around our profession, misinformation about our profession and what it is that we do. I believe that our relationships with students and their families that's why we do it, and that's what's most rewarding about the profession. So to see the powers that be contributing to negative rhetoric and to the breakdown of that trust between families and educators is devastating to me. And for me to ever consider coming back, I would really have to see a shift in the us versus them dynamic that is so rampant in education right now, because none of it is good for kids, and I'm about what's good for kids. And right now I feel that my impact is being, I have more of an impact outside of my classroom, but that's not to say that, I won't ever consider returning one day, but that we have to restore the trust between families and educators. We are equal stakeholders in every child's education. And until that trust is restored and until mutual respect for one another is restored, it's just not something I'm willing to subject myself to at this time. And so in the interim, I'm working to try and change that.
Dan, you were the superintendent of schools for when my kids were in school, and they seem like quaint old times where parents were helicopter parents and would be very annoying, but that seems like it pales in comparison to what we're seeing today.
It does. Parents have always been very supportive of their schools. As a matter of fact, even the most recent surveys that were done indicate that over 77% of parents love the school that their child attends. So that's still the case. The problem is that there are these other factors that have come into play: the politicizing of many of these issues, the pandemic, the schools open, schools closed, wear masks, don't wear masks, get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated. So the issue is, and you mentioned earlier on, those parents that are saying, hey, we have to take our education back. We have to take our schools back. We have to go back to where our schools provide the kind of environment, the kind of culture that Lindsay is talking about, because that's what parents want. That's what the children want. And certainly educators don't go into this business because they're going to make money. They don't. They do it because they love kids And without that interaction with the kids and the ability to engage the children, it's not going to happen.
Peter, let's dig a little bit deeper into one of the issues that you brought up. I mean, these chaotic school board meetings, lots of anger, plenty of stunts, people just saying, we've got to get rid of the masks, we got to get rid of the vaccine mandates. Then you have the governor of Virginia who set up this tip line so that parents can call in and report divisive teaching practice. I'm not even sure what that is. In Texas, of course, there's the story that came out about an administrator taped saying, we really have to teach opposing views of the Holocaust because of some legislation passed in Texas. And the legislation in Texas, not the only ones. I mean, we've got these controversial laws either passed or considered in a number of states across the country. And I would think that's added incentive, with teachers looking and saying, look, even what I'm doing in the classroom is going to get handcuffed. People are going to be second guessing my teaching plans. That's another reason to drive people from the business as well, correct?
It is. It is. I think in many ways what's happening in the schools right now is a reflection of what's happening in the larger, civic arena. We see the politics that's gotten really, really toxic in the last few years. You see phenomena like January 6th, where people are resorting to violence, and then it's being normalized and being treated like it's okay. And it's like the voices of rage are dominating the voices of reason. I think, though, that ultimately we have to have faith that the voices of reason will win out in the end. I think these things happen in cycles, and right now there's this cycle, and so you see what, as you mentioned in Virginia, let's set up a tip line, and let's have people reporting any teacher who brings up the issue of race. And you see all kinds of craziness like that, and it's just what's going on in society today. But I'm pretty convinced that in the long run, reason will prevail. We just need to get it back. We need to remind people, and we need to elevate the voices of regular people, voices like Lindsay's, who just understand that this is about kids. I mean, kids have been lost in this whole thing. When you hear all these debates about masking, sometimes it's about kids, but more often than not, it's about adults, and more often than not, it's about freedom, issues like freedom, and it should be about health. And so we just have to get back to reasonableness, and I do think it's possible. I just think that the voices of reason, which tend to be quieter and maybe don't always get the headlines, need to be elevated even more.
Jennifer, what about these voices of rage, though? I mean, what kind of chilling effect does that have on? I mean, you're talking to young people who want to go into this profession. I imagine they're running for the doors in some respects.
Well, I think this is I think there are regional aspects, and I think that Peter is right that what we hear in the headlines are, not to say this isn't happening in a lot of places, but I think we hear extreme cases. I think really what schools were built to do, the idea of public schools, is to teach civic engagement and empathy and compassion and socialization. And that's where we need public schools to fill that role. The teaching of history has always been fraught. I grew up in the South, and history did not reflect a lot, the way history was taught did not reflect a lot of the profound racial injustice in this country. And so that is finally starting to change, but the backlash to that is what we're seeing and hearing. And what we have to do is learn to listen to one another and find compassion. And I do think our schools of education are teaching teachers to help their students and the students' families find that compassion and find that listening ear. But you're right, if teachers are being demonized in the public arena and if schools are being used as political footballs by politicians who want to get a leg up on the national stage, then kids and public dollars are being terribly misspent.
All right, family. Just wanted to share an excerpt of that interview. You can find this interview at the CGTN America YouTube channel. It's the name of the interview is The Heat, U.S. Teacher Shortages. Okay, family? Again, the C as in cat, G as in girl, T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, America YouTube channel, The Heat, U.S. Teacher Shortages. I thought they were sharing some very good insight and information that will be helpful for our discussion here this evening, family. So y'all heard a lot of what they were referring to. Let's look at some of the things that they were talking about. And to start, let's start off with what they were not discussing and what most information as far as that's in the mainstream is not discussing, and that is the true reasons for the teacher shortage. I'm going to break that down for y'all right now, okay? As you see on your screen, okay? The true reasons for the current level of the teacher shortage is as follows. One, when the predator really jumped off and got bad, and ladies and gentlemen, here at One Brothas Mind, we call that thing we've been battling for the past 2 years or so that we can't talk about on YouTube. They ban our channels and take our videos down. We call that the predator. Now, as y'all heard in this interview, they can talk about it, but the B1 channels and black channels on YouTube, we can't say the word, or they tear our videos down. Now, this video's been up there. YouTube ain't took it down. But if I say those words, they'll take this video down or ban my channel and all kind of other stuff. So we call it the predator. So because of the predator and because of the forced ooh-wees, and ladies and gentlemen, we call that thing that they tried to force everybody to get, or they did force everybody to get, if you will. We call that the ooh-wee. So the predator and the ooh-wees, okay? Because of the predator and the ooh-wees, you had retirements and early retirements. So a large percentage of teachers just went ahead and retired. They said, I'm not dealing with this mess. I was going to do a few more years, but hey, this is too much, right? I'm gone. Then you had another portion of teachers say, I'm trying to do even a few more years than that, but with all this, no, I'm not doing it. So I'm retiring early, right? So then you had early retirements. Then, like I said, you had the ooh-wee terminations, okay, where school systems and governments was like, the ooh-wees are mandatory. And a lot of teachers was like, no, that's a personal choice. You can't force me to do this and that. And that's a health decision. I'm not doing that. And so a lot of school districts terminated teachers that refused to get the ooh-wee. And then you had a bunch of other teachers that said, I'm not taking the ooh-wee. Y'all can take this job and stick it where the sun don't shine. I'm out. I'm gone. And so they just resigned. Then, in addition, you had another percentage of teachers that are not being reported. They literally lost their lives to the predator, trying to, still be teachers, and they didn't have any other options. They just kept coming to work, or they wanted to keep coming to work, and they tried to comply with everything. Many of them actually got the ooh-wee and still die from the predator. Remember, family, in the U.S., we've had over 1 million deaths and counting from the predator. Now, the mainstream media, they're trying to push the lie that, it was all mostly elderly people. No. That's a lie. That's why we have staff shortages and worker shortages in pretty much every area of business and staff need in the U.S. Okay? So stop believing the lies that mainstream media is pushing. These are the things on this list that I'm telling you. are the true reasons for why staff in every category is short. You also had mandatory overtime of the staff that remained. They pushed the teachers that remained, many of them past their breaking points to where they got burned out, as you heard them mention earlier, and requiring they take on double, triple the amount of students. That required overtime, but they didn't increase their pay. Okay, and it said, well, you have to do it. No, I don't. I have a life, I have a family, and I'm going to only commit a certain amount of time to this job, and that's it. But there caused terminations and resignations as well for the mandatory overtime. In addition, you heard me mention in this interview, the unsafe work environments with the predator just all up and through all the classrooms and schools. They came out with they came out with these jacked up so-called safety because they got these little shields on the desk. Man, all that was trash. All of it was trash. Yeah, if you an educator, listen to it. I hope you a principal or a school administrator. All that's trash. You can't put people in a box with an airborne predator and say that's safe. It's not. Stop the cat. It's not. It never will be. I remember I had a brief debate with some people where I was telling them early on that schools were going to become one of the major or super spreaders in the United States because it was every day during the school year, we're required to send our kids to school every day. Well, if they have the predator in the schools or a certain percentage of students and parents, especially parents that are sending their kids to school with the predator, okay, that's just an impossible situation. It's impossible. You're in a box. There's nowhere to go. There's no safe distance, nothing in a box. I don't care how you want to lie and try to twist your face to say it is. I even had a debate with some people saying that when I said that schools was probably going to be the worst place in the U.S., they wanted to argue, no, it's restaurants. I'm like, well, restaurants is a choice. People going out to restaurants, yeah, that's a lot of people, but that's a choice. And most people, whether wisely, are going to decide early or are going to decide after they see the negative effects on themselves or other people, they're going to stop going to restaurants, which is exactly what happened. So school still is that remaining mandatory situation. It's the super spreader. Because even with a lot of kids, school age, they don't even show signs. Most of them are asymptomatic, and they just take the predator home with them. And now mama got it, daddy got it, other people in the family, it's in the house now. And there's not one concise method of here's what all the schools are doing nationally. These safety measures, period. No, they wanted to leave the hodgepodge up there. So that's why it just was all messed up everywhere. And it's still messed up everywhere today. Now they've had all summer. You got the president and the government. They've had all summer to enact some sort of safety laws to help prevent the predator from blowing back up once schools get started back in. Make sure all the schools are on the same safety protocols. Have they done it? No. So now at every school district, you got a different protocol set, right? So you're going to have the same problems that we had before if this new variant begins to really, as it seems to show right now, it's beginning to really pick back up. Okay, even so bad that lawmakers in California have announced that it's time in California to put your mask back on. And soon they're going to start requiring masks to be worn in California again. So, now you got teachers, as they've mentioned here on this interview as well. They're coming to work every day. They know they're being lied to. It's not safe. It's a box. They'd have been better off saying, okay, we're going to have and hold every day of school that the weather is pleasant outside. We're going to hold class outside, outdoors. That would have been a safer option than trying to force everybody inside in the box, breathing the same air on each other, touching everything. No. Most of these schools have the grounds around them large enough to be able to section off with cones or whatever, class size spaces, and you're outdoors. That is safer. That's only common sense, because the air is being filtered and diluted. But no, you got all these so-called educated people and administrators talking about we got to have class indoors in a box. It's safe, y'all, right? They looking around at each other. It's the most pile of insanity I've ever seen in my life. The only days that school should have been held in person, inside, are on days that the weather was inclement or unpleasant to be outside. And then in those times, students and parents should have been given the opportunity to do virtual classes is an additional safe option. Okay? But y'all say I'm crazy, right? And then, as I just mentioned, you had the students, that the parents of students who had the predator were purposely sending their kids to school still, most without mask. Why? Because those parents still had to go to work every day. They didn't have another option. So the parents couldn't take off work. They were being forced to work mandatory overtime because it was their jobs were short-staffed as well. So, or just for the money in general. So they didn't miss out on money. They were forcefully sending, or purposely, because they didn't want to have to stay home and take care of their ill child. They were sending their children in, knowing they had symptoms, knowing they had the predator. Every day, most without masks. And then you had staff, the teachers and the other school staff or whatever, administrators, they were just getting hit and just beat up with the predator coming in every day. So of course they're getting it. Of course there's many of them ending up in the hospital. They're being inundated with the predator from students. Okay? The only other place that I can think of that's probably the more unsanitary than a school is a hospital. Those are the only other places that are worse as far as sanitation than schools or hospitals. Okay? So you got teachers in here, they're stuck, like they mentioned in the interview. They're like, can I keep teaching? I know this is not a safe environment. The odds are I'm going to get the predator. It's either going to take me out or at least put me down for a period of time where I can't work. Therefore, in addition, it's going to put my family at risk. I can't risk. I take care of my elderly parents as well at home. I have to be around them, or I go provide care for my elderly. I can't be at school all day with the predator and then go be around my elderly parent or whatever the case. It's so much. Why? Because it's, without question, an unsafe work environment. Again, family, nothing has been done. Nothing. No national safety policy or nothing. 9 times out of 10, if this new variant of the predator continues in the path that it's going, as far as the increase, this B, what is it, B.5 or B.25, whatever it is, expect the boom to come approximately 2 months after schools are back in session. Okay? I pray that don't happen, but expect it. If this variant is really doing what it's looking like it's doing right now. Okay? These on your screen are the reasons why there's a real shortage. In this, it doesn't matter the industry, pick one. Teachers, schools, restaurants, hotels, airlines, pick one. It doesn't matter. These are the reasons why there's a worker shortage that the mainstream media and government are not being honest about. Okay? So take a screenshot of it, memorize it, whatever you need to do, but understand the truth of what's going on. Okay? Now, looking at the so-called solutions that most of these school districts are putting in place to try to have more teachers, most of them are a complete joke. Okay? They are a complete joke. Okay? I'm going to share with you guys from an article here. This article that I'm going to share with you is from the Education Week. It's called Teacher Preparation. The headline is States Relax Teacher Certification Rules to Combat Shortages. It's written by Madeline Will, June 28th, 2022. I'm going to share a few excerpts of this article with you guys just to highlight some of the absolute insanity that is going on in addition to what you see on your screen. Okay, we're going to go over that in a moment. Across the country, policymakers are taking steps to relax their state certification requirements to get more teachers in the classroom and circumvent shortages. Reviews by Education Week and the Education Commission of the states found about a dozen states that have recently amended or are considering amending teacher certification rules. Some are changing the criteria for licensure. Others are expanding the qualifying score on state licensing tests. And some are dropping licensure tests altogether. Okay? In California, legislators voted last year to allow teacher candidates to skip 2 different exams, the basic skills test and a subject matter exam, if they have taken approved college courses. So if their teacher candidates have taken teacher college courses, they can just skip the exams, 2 of these exams altogether. Okay? And Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signed a bill in May that removes the requirement for teacher candidates to pass a general education exam that covers communication, critical thinking, and computation. In Missouri, the state's Board of Education voted earlier this month to grant teaching certificates to test takers who score within 1 standard error of measurement, meaning they missed the qualifying score by a few questions. The Education Department says 550 teachers will benefit from this policy change, 80% of whom are working toward being certified in one of the state's top 15 shortage areas. Also, the potential of thousands of Missouri students to have a well-prepared, appropriately certified teacher considerably outweighs the minimal risk this is what they're saying, it considerably outweighs the minimum risk that would come from altering the qualifying score or lowering the qualifying score for all initial teacher certification exams, says Paul Katnick, the department's assistant commissioner. In Alabama, State Board of Education members are also considering certifying prospective teachers who don't reach the qualifying score on the praxis test. Nearly 1,200 teachers in the state scored one standard error measure below the passing score between September 2019 and August 2021. The state's education department has proposed that candidates who score within one standard error of measurement on the praxis test can still be certified if they have a higher GPA in their teacher participation program or if they complete 100 hours of state-approved training. Meanwhile, in New Jersey has implemented a 5-year pilot program where prospective teachers can still get limited certification if they either don't meet the minimum GPA, requirement, or earn minimum passing score on a state licensing test of subject matter knowledge. About a decade ago, states were strengthening entry requirements into the field. Now, some critics warn against lowering the bar at a time when effective teachers are needed more than ever to help make up learning that was disrupted during the predator. Right? I don't understand why our response to concern about shortages is to have a major policy reaction that lowers the standard for entry, says Heather Pesky, the president of the National Council on Teacher Quality, a Washington-based think tank that calls for more rigorous teacher preparation. Endorsing an option that asks less of teachers in terms of their content knowledge means you shift the burden of learning, I added of learning to this, onto the students. And less experienced teachers are more likely to teach in classrooms. Listen to this, family. Less experienced teachers are more likely to teach in classrooms with more students of color and children from low-income families, she noted. Pesky also said that she'd rather see more support given to aspiring teachers so they can pass the state exams as they currently are. NCTQ has highlighted several teacher preparation programs that have shored up support for test takers and now see higher than average pass rates on licensing exams, including among candidates of color. In general, aspiring teachers of color, according to the statistics, are more likely to fail licensing tests than white candidates. Experts point to several reasons why that might be. Some of the questions, listen to this, family, some of the questions on the licensing test may be culturally biased. Where have we known and experienced this before? Okay? Candidates of color may have more test anxiety. The fees to take and retake exams can be prohibitive, and systematic educational inequalities or inequities mean that many of color, might be less prepared than whites candidates. Okay? There's a lot going on, y'all, here that's being revealed, some not being revealed, and some that are. But here, just for a moment, family, we're going to take a brief non-commercial commercial break, and we'll be back with you in just a moment. And we're back, family. Okay, so you've heard what the educators and administrators were saying. I've shared with you additional information from this Education Week article. So in summary, as you see on your screen, the new teachers that are being hired are unqualified, they're inexperienced. What they're not saying as well, many of them are white supremacists who undervalue black students. There's a percentage of them that are mentally unstable. A part of that is part of the reasons why some of them have been unsuccessful at passing the license exams and tests. They just don't have the faculties to do it. And they're the educators in this interview, as well as educate this article here with Education Week, they're trying to present the information as if they're only speaking about young, new graduates, teacher graduates that are trying to get into the field of teaching. That is a lie, family. There's a whole gang of old, dusty, crusty, crazy people out here that have been working as substitutes, but they just, for various reasons, could not and have yet to pass the licensing test. So they haven't been able to get to, but they're reducing those requirements. And now many of them, whether they've been working as substitutes or not, just not even been able to get that, they're bringing those unqualified, inexperienced, crazy, many of them are white supremacists. They're bringing those people into the public schools, y'all. Some of them are even predators that are going to prey on our children. They're going to be abusive. Okay, family? Many of them are drug addicts and alcoholics. Just the list goes on and on. In one sense, look at it this way. In one sense, to have license test requirements and standards that have to be attained or passed, essentially, family, it's a way to filter out the unqualified. And many of the other things you see on your screen. That's what it is, in a sense. Now, that's excluding the ridiculous test questions and things that are culturally biased that they've used to exclude black teachers from getting their licenses. That stuff never was supposed to be there in the first place. Okay? But we know why that stuff was there. Because they don't want black teachers in the classroom for the most part. Okay? So, I mean, y'all, all of this relaxing of the standards. Oh, I wanted to just mention, as I was putting this report together, literally today, which is July 12th, I came across a report that in Arizona, the Arizona governor, I believe, passed a new law that teachers, it's called they're not required to have a teaching degree anymore. They just only need to be enrolled in college or some teacher education program, and they can automatically be hired as a teacher. Again, unqualified. Just as long as they're enrolled, y'all. What? So, again, family, what effects do y'all think all of these things are going to have on the education and safety, for that matter, of our kids in public schools? Remember, family, smash the like, share. And make sure you're subscribed to One Brothas Mind, because you're only getting the truth and the full information and facts you need here at One Brothas Mind with KD Smooth. Okay? So the effect is what you see on your screen. Black students will be, and they actually are currently, in danger in their schools. Your kids. Yeah, you. They're in danger. At the very least, they're in danger of having their education harmed and being insufficient that they're receiving, to where it's going to further handicap them and put them behind. Most of us in the black community already know that the education that is being given out in public schools throughout the country, especially to most black students, most minority students, most students, lower income students, education is trash. It's trash, y'all. Most of us already know that, but it's actually going to get worse, because they're going to have unqualified people educating, dishing out the trash education, which is going to make it worse. Okay? Just going to make it worse. So when our students, or when any students have questions or need help with their assigned work, and they raise their hand and are asking for help, the unqualified teachers that they've just hired, many of them are not going to be able to provide the additional work, help, and explanation that some students need, because they're unqualified or they're inexperienced on how to do it. And because they're inexperienced on how to do it, instead of providing that extra help or explanation, they're going to get pissed off and start calling our kids for asking for more help. Start calling them as being disruptive and a problem in class. And I mean, y'all see where this is. Y'all see where I'm going with this. And that's just the education part. That doesn't include the actual physical safety of our children from many of these fools. Right? Let me share something with you here. This is a screenshot, and if you're on your phone, take a screenshot of it and blow it up and look at each of these headlines, individually, or wait till you get on a bigger computer screen or TV screen and bring this image back up on your screen from this video, and you'll be able to see all the headlines. Google them. This is just a small portion of the headlines that were reported from schools from January 1 to the end of March this year. 3 months. Some of the headlines you guys heard about, but many of them you didn't. The insanity and that was already going on in schools. So now the public school systems are doubling down, bringing 2, 3, 4 times as many as these crazy, insane, many white supremacist people into the public school systems to teach and handle primarily our kids. Like the article said, they're going to push the inexperienced teachers to the schools that are teaching our kids. Let that sink in, family. Y'all gotta rip parents. You gotta really think hard about what is happening and where it's going in regards to education in America, especially for black children. the dangers they're really in to their education, as well as the physical dangers. Okay? In regards to the type of people, the racist, white supremacists that they're hiring more of. They're not cleaning this stuff up. They're hiring more of them. Bringing it in. Bringing more of them in, man. Again, take a screenshot of this, blow it up, or go back to this section in the video when you get a chance, when you're on a larger screen, and just look. Just read the headlines. Google each one if you want. The stories will all pop up, and you can see what's going on. I'm going to say it again. Black students are in danger in their schools. Get our kids out of their schools. Okay? Not safe there. In addition, what are many of the public school systems and school systems across the country talking about doing? Yeah. So now, put it this way. All these crazy criminals that have done these things in just 3 months, and this is just a small portion. This is only what I could fit on one screen, y'all. In 3 months across the country. You're going to give all these criminals, you're going to give all of them guns. Okay. If y'all ain't already figured it out, what students throughout the entire country have the highest discipline rates? Black students. So, if you give many of these racist, white supremacists, or even if they're not, they just don't really value, or they don't see value in black people, let alone our kids. If you give them guns in the school, Lord, are y'all for real right now? Y'all think these teachers ain't gonna be pointing their guns and drawing down on our kids in the schools? Y'all think some of our kids ain't gonna get shot by some of these? Come on, y'all. Come on. Get our kids out of their schools now. Okay? Now, as y'all heard in the article as well as in the interview, one of the fastest ways that they can resolve most of the teacher shortages is just to raise the pay. Because teachers can go other places and make more money. If you eliminate that option, then teachers is like, all right, there's nowhere else I can go make more money, so I might as well go ahead and stay and keep teaching. The only other option is you have to make teaching less stressful, less dangerous, more safer, things of that nature. Because teachers will still leave. Even though you raise the pay, teachers will still leave for those reasons as well. So you got to fix those few reasons. If you do, you make it safer, you raise the pay, and make it less stressful, you're going to get a whole lot of teachers come flooding, that the experienced ones that left, that they fired over the ooh-wee and all this other craziness. You're going to get a lot of them. They're going to flood right back in. Okay? And you're going to resolve many or a large portion of the shortages problem. Okay? But they don't want to do that, y'all. Because that's taking money out of the pockets of the school. They don't want to do that. Okay? So, family, let's talk about some solutions here. Some solutions, excuse this, my little picture in the middle of the screen. I didn't recognize that it dropped there, but one solution here, family, there are in many of our cities, there are black charter school options, okay, that are much better educational options for our kids than the public school systems. But many of the black charter schools are struggling because of low enrollment, okay? Many of them are struggling due to low enrollment because we're not supporting them. They're there for us, for the black community, but we're not supporting them. They can't, the more enrollment they can get, the more funding, government funding they receive. So the more that they can do, but we're not supporting them. Okay. And if you really check them out, they're doing a hell of a better job, most of them, with educating our kids. Now, some of them, they're just running hustles because it's a thing now. They know they can open up throw up a building and open up a charter school real quick and get a bunch of free government money. So you got to research the schools. Don't just say, oh, it's a black charter school and go run to it. No. Research the school. See what kind of academic performance the school has had over the last 5 to 8 years. Is their academic performance high? Have they received any academic awards? Things of that nature. If not, watch out. It's probably just a hustle. And they're probably going to be closed in a year or two if it's just a hustle anyway. So watch out for those. But the good ones that have been there, that are getting awards for academics, that have waiting lists and things like that, those are the ones you want to find and target and try to get your student enrolled in. Now, one of the obstacles to these schools is most of them don't provide transportation. There's no busing. So you, the parent, have to provide the transportation. And of course, that comes at a sacrifice and a cost to you. Can you, depending on what time the school opens and starts and closes, can you still get to work on time and get home on time to pick them up and all that? You got to work all that logistics out. But most of these schools understand that, and that's why they offer free before and after care programs so that you can bring your kids earlier and still get to work on time. I'm not talking about something I don't know nothing about. I did this with one of my kids. Okay? And I thank God for that charter school being there. Turned my child into a 10 times better academic student than the public school system was doing. I had to find the public schools was trash. Okay, here in Indy. Okay, where KD Smooth is. So definitely do your research. Start calling them now. Start following up. Do your research on whatever charter schools. You may be a school way on the other side of town, but if it's on your way to work, or if you can easily swing by it and drop your student off during the before care program and still make it to work on time, isn't your child's education worth it? Stop being lazy, family. I mean, there's nothing that said better solutions are going to be easier. They're just going to be better. And you have to figure out how to make them work. Okay? Charter schools, especially black-run charter schools, going to be better situation. And in black-run charter schools, you ain't got to worry about so much racist, white supremacist teachers on staff there either. They don't play that as much. Okay? And really, frankly, those teachers, they don't apply for the teaching positions at black charter schools because they know they don't want to personally be in that environment. Okay? So again, you don't have to deal with the racism as much. Your child will be much more comfortable in a black charter school that has high academic standards. Okay? They won't have to deal with that direct and indirect racism that they're dealing with today. Okay? Or dealt with last year. Okay? Let's look at some more solutions here. There you go. an additional solution as these unqualified teachers are brought in, and if there's just absolutely no other option, you decide you're going to leave your child in the public schools, you already know the quality of education that they're going to be receiving, especially our children, is going to be reduced. It's going to get worse. So start finding ways to hook your students up, your kids up with tutoring programs and option, online tutoring. You know, if you can't find, if those are too expensive, hell, just ask around in your family and at your church. There's black college students that many of them are looking to make and pick up a few extra dollars while they're in school. They can provide tutoring for your child, especially online tutoring. You can do your own little Zoom meeting and bam, there you go. Help your child with their math, your basic math and all that. You pay them, y'all work out an agreement amount, and they're making some extra money, so they're being helped, and your child is getting tutoring. You got to think things through, family. You got to come up with more options and ways to improve your child's education. That's if you're not really capable, or don't, for whatever reason, you're not capable of tutoring your own child. And understand this, in today's setup, it's not necessarily that you're ignorant and can't do it. It's that, like with the math, for example, they teach math in many schools today completely different than the way it was taught 15, 20 years ago, or it was taught to you. So if you go to try to help your child with their math, if they are old enough, they're going to tell you, Mommy, Daddy, that's not how the teacher showed us. Or what you should be asking is, how did your teacher show you how to do it first? And when they start doing some kind of crazy stuff, you're gonna get that look on your face, like, wait, what? And then they said, do what? Oh, they tripping. That's your confirmation that they're teaching your child how to do math way differently than they taught you, than it was taught when you were in school. So now you would really benefit from like a high school student if you have a really young child, or a college student if you got a high school student, for tutoring, because they just were taught the same way to do math as they're teaching your child to do it. So they would be a better help as far as tutoring than you would. Because if you just lock in and say, no, I'm going to teach you the old school way, the real way, the simple, and all you really going to do is frustrate and confuse your child. Because that's your child. They're going to try to do it your way. And it ain't going to do nothing but just confuse them even more, make their performance even worse in most cases. And now they got the teacher saying do this way and you saying do that. What do they do? Okay. Additional note, and this one comes from the Hart family, because I have a special needs son. Family, the public schools here in America, at least for, I can confirm, for autistic children, they have no clue what they're doing when it comes to educating special needs autistic students. No clue. Okay? I've done this for basically 2 years. Tried them out. I can't explain how much of a nightmare my experience has been, just trying to maintain and make sure that my student was getting good education presented to him in a way that he can learn and prosper from public schools. It's impossible. So I'll share with you my solution because of that. But in regards to special needs, basically all of the teachers in the special needs departments at public schools, they just took the regular teaching courses, most of them in college. They have they might have taken an additional course or two in regards to teaching special needs students, and that's all their experience. They have not worked, especially with autistic students, but many of the different special needs that students have, they have not specifically worked and are not experienced with working with those specific special needs. And most of them don't really care, because the school's approach is, we teach, as you see in this classroom, they got all the kids, they got one teacher and a teacher's aide. They got all the kids, or at least most of the kids around, and they're teaching the class. Whereas some of these kids need the level of teaching that the teacher is teaching. But there's probably one or two of these kids that are at a higher learning level already than what is being taught. So those children, those one or two children, they're not learning anything. Their education is not being improved because they're getting a one-size-fits-all classroom education approach. Okay? Now, in defense of the public schools don't have, again, the staff to provide more of an individually need-based education approach for special needs students. They don't. So they're doing the best they can with what they got, basically, which is not good enough. It's the problem. They, like in this situation here on your screen, there's a teacher's aide or a teacher's assistant. What most public schools do, they have a short time, like you see on your screen, where they go over something as a class. And then after that time, both teachers break off and go to each student, and they work with each student for about 5 to 8 minutes individually on whatever individual level, if possible, that special needs student is on. So essentially, your special needs student is only getting, out of every hour or so long class, your student is only getting about 5 to 8 minutes of actual education each day. The rest of the time in the class, what the teachers are doing, in many cases, are the education that's being presented is not on the level that your special needs student needs or is at. So they're not learning. Okay? And for many special needs students, it's not that they can't learn, it's because they're getting this one-size-fits-all crap. Okay? So, family, y'all gotta really think this through. And in regards to this special need, black charter schools, please look to hire some experienced special needs teachers and offer special needs programs at the black charter schools. Okay? Because black parents, we have no other option. It's public schools or homeschool. That's really it. Okay? And don't just hire your regular teachers. Here's a suggestion, charter school operators. Go look into, for autistic kids, go look at the top 2 or 3 autism therapy providers in your city, in your state. Look to hire therapists, board certified therapists out of those services that also have a teaching background in education. They can come in and do a far better job teaching academics to special needs kids than regular teachers. Okay? And it's not just with autism. If they're board certified, they're certified to provide therapy and potentially educate all varieties of special needs. Okay? It's better to get a therapist who has teacher credentials as well, or taking has had education classes, than to get a teacher with a special needs class, just a class, because that therapist has physically been working with special needs kids for years, whereas the teacher has not. Doesn't have the understanding. To give you a brief example, just to share a personal piece with my autistic son. This past school year, my autistic son had his teacher. It was up until this past semester, it was my favorite teacher. She's been great up until this past semester, when he actually had my favorite teacher there at the public school as his math teacher. She's had over 20 years of teaching experience. So you would think this teacher knows what she's doing. Wrong. You couldn't be further from the truth. Okay? What occurred was, having an autistic child, I understand autistic children learn best with consistency. Okay? That's just a part of being autistic. They learn best when things are consistent. When what you're presenting them or trying to teach them, you're consistent with it. They struggle when you start to change, or if you're always changing and switching stuff up on them, because they get confused. Not because they can't learn what you're trying to change to or whatever, but because in most cases, if you're inexperienced, you're trying to make the change too fast, or you need to break the change that you want to make and move them to. You need to break that change down into segments, easier consumed segments, and explain each of those segments that you're trying to change, and then do them eventually, and the student will make the change with you. Okay? After you confirm that they understand, okay, we're adding this new element, let's do that. And you consistently do that with the new element, and then you go, okay, now we're going to add element 2 that's new. Okay, now you consistently do that over and over again. Then you add eventually element 3. And each of these additions only occur when you've confirmed that the student understands the current element that you are working on, that you've added. They can demonstrate they get it by giving you the correct answers, right? This 20 plus year experienced teacher was doing everything she could to take my child, my son, who is at a first grade math level. Yeah, I said first grade math level. And trying to, in each lesson, incorporate second grade, third grade, and fourth grade math elements all in the same lesson, in the same literal class period. I'm like, you can't do that. That's 4 years of math. You can't do that to a first grade student who is not special needs or autistic. But this teacher was trying to constantly do it. Just trust me, I can teach him. No, you ain't doing nothing but pissing my child off, and my child is just randomly trying to give you responses and answers, praying that he say something that's right and to make you happy. But my child is not learning because you're moving through the elements too fast. So I had to have a conference with this teacher. Ultimately, it just got so bad. Now, the beauty of what happened with the predator, and I'm thankful for the predator because it allowed the virtual school option, which allowed me to see and experience what was going on in the classroom, which is where I saw all of this and was like, hell to the no. Y'all stop this. No, this stops now. Here's what y'all gotta do, or we're out. That's the only two options. Doing what y'all want to do it or the way y'all want to do it, that's out. That's not an option. Okay? That's how that's what it is. Okay? So I literally end up having to have a conference with this teacher and the other school officials, the head of the special needs department. And I had to put this teacher with over 20 plus years of experience on blast right in the meeting. And I did it by asking this one question. I said, ma'am, can you confirm to me whether or not autistic students learn best from consistency or from inconsistency in regards to the lesson and education that you're presenting to them? Which is it? She took several breaths before she went to answer that question, because obviously I was correct. It's consistency. She said consistency. I said, so why are y'all every lesson trying to add a new element to his math lesson every day? That's not consistent. You have to keep doing the exact same math lesson every day for many days until my student demonstrates comprehension and mastery of the math element that you are working on. Then when you go to add, like literally, just addition. Okay? They were working on, coin identification and coin identification and addition. Let me say that. And coin identification was fine, but then it was like, okay, let's add 2 quarters. Okay. You see 2 quarters on the screen. Okay. They got my son used to adding 2 coins, 2 like coins. Great. That's an element. Okay. Now that we're through that, then they was like, okay, now let's just out the blue, they went to unlike coins. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Yes, that's a new element, but y'all gotta work into that slowly. Start with the smallest coins and provide significant. You gotta explain to him what you're doing. You gotta go through it. In other words, multiple times with him. In the beginning, you gotta walk him through it so he can understand. Oh, you want me to add the penny and the nickel together to make 6. You gotta, in various ways, have him say it with you and go through it with you and get the answers. You can't just put it on the screen and go, okay, now add this. You haven't explained that to him. So of course he's not going to get the answer right. He doesn't know whether you're asking him to tell you it's a penny or a nickel, or if it's 5 cents or 1 cent. Now he's guessing. Why? Because you haven't explained it to him and walked him through it multiple times so he can go, oh, you want me to do this? Now, another element that was a problem that I had to explain to them. I said, okay, at some point, y'all gonna need to add the plus sign in these coin or math equations and start using the verbal word plus or addition by, identifying that symbol that it's plus, right? And using it as you speak to him, as you tell him what it is or ask him what the answers are. What is 1 penny? Put a plus sign there, plus the other penny or whatever. And you got to do that multiple times until my student shows that he comprehends and now has mastered it and understands what the plus sign means fully. Okay? And it's not that my student couldn't do the math. At home, I'm literally printing out math sheets, addition sheets, up to 2 digits, giving them to my student. My student is sitting down doing them, getting 90+% at home. But at school, with their teachers in the public schools, they can't figure out how to teach him basic math, first grade math, because they're trying to run through it too fast. So, I'm sorry for going off on a tangent, family, but I just wanted to share with you. There's many parents of other special needs students that have had similar or even worse experiences. There's more I could say about it, but oh my God, do we need this help. Again, black charter schools, please, 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 please go out and recruit teachers from the special needs therapy programs in your city. Ones that have over 5 years of actual hands-on therapy experience with the various special needs that are out there, especially autism. Okay? And bring them into the classroom. Help them go get their teaching credentials so you can have a special needs program there, and you have a couple of teachers that are fully experienced with working with special needs children, and they actually, from experience, understand how to teach them, as opposed to just giving this one-size-fits-all crap. Okay, family? So, yeah, y'all, the last option here, this is my new option with my son. I teach my son. I've always taught my son at home, but I've been previously working mostly, but things got so bad, I literally had to stop working so I could teach my own child, because the public school systems are such trash and unsafe. Okay? I mean, it's just crazy stuff happening. Like, to give you another crazy, odd situation, here, me and my family are practicing Passover. So there's no, nothing with leaven in it that we're eating for the entire week, right, of Passover. The schools know that many students, the public schools, they know this Passover week. They have to be mindful of all the holidays. But what are they doing while my child was in school? They're giving my student cookies. And they were proud about it. So when I went and picked up my son, and the teacher was like, yeah, we gave him some cookies. Hopefully that was all right. I said, we're doing Passover. And she went, oh my God. She instantly knew they screwed up. I'm like, y'all know it's Passover week. At the very least, y'all can send the parent a text or email and ask. And that teacher, which happened to be the same teacher I had this problem with that I explained earlier, y'all know y'all can just call me. I'm going to answer and say yes or no. But it's man, just disrespect on top of disrespect on top of disrespect. I can't do no more with them. Will never, ever, 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 ever have my child in a public school situation here in Indianapolis. Okay? So, like I said, homeschooling is my only option, except for identifying a new autism therapy program that also has an academic package with it. But other than that, what you see on your screen is what me and my son will be doing every day, as we've always done. I'm just gonna intensify it and be his full-time teacher here at home. So, family, again, just wanted to share with you guys what's really going on, what's being said, what also, more importantly, is not being said. And that our kids are not safe with their education or their physical safety in their schools. Get our kids out of their schools now. There are some other options. I've just shared you with some of them with you. It's worth it. Isn't it worth your child being safe and not dealing with racist people? Isn't it worth your child having, yes, the charter schools, a lot of them are having teacher shortages as well, but pick your poison. I'd rather deal with a black charter school with teacher shortage than a public school with teacher shortage and deal with racist white supremacists. Okay? Family, you got some hard choices and decisions to make. I pray you choose what's best and safest for your child. Okay? I'm damn sure doing that for mine. And unless I find another option, homeschooling is it. Okay? So, let's chop it up on this topic here in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. If y'all have some more solutions, especially if y'all have some more solution options, drop them in the comments. That's what it's here for, man. For us to communicate with one another, and there may be some additional solution options that I didn't mention. It may help somebody else if you drop some solution options that I didn't mention. We need to identify all of our solution options, okay? So there you have it, family. Let me know what y'all think on this. Please remember to smash the likes, share, and make sure you're subscribed to One Brothas Mind, because we try to bring you the information and facts that you need. And this concludes this broadcast for One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us. And as a part of the new Black media, B1 choices are mandatory and being on code is required. But never fear, Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.